Hi everyone. Ugh. Today we're going to turn this ugly shelf into this beautiful live edge shelf. So essentially, all I'm going to really do is use the previous floating shelf as a template. So I'm just going to be making it the same size, sort of this floating shelf. So I can lay it in place and sort of work out what I'm going to end up with. But I want to keep this corner to come around and be floating. So a floating shelf on this end as well. So it'll be a floating shelf on one end and on the front, and then this end will just be cut square. Now, I want to do this so that we can put it in the corner if we decide to, but it'll probably just have a bit of a gap from the wall, but I think it'll still look pretty cool. So once I use the shelf to mark out the area I want, I'm going to use a circular saw to cut out the rectangle for the final shelf. Before I get onto all the finishing details, I'm going to make the actual part where the bracket's going to sit. Now I'm actually going to use the bracket that came from the cheap IKEA shelf. There's actually nothing wrong with this bracket, and it's going to work perfect for what I need. The good thing about this bracket is that it actually has this plate along the back and it's not two separate pieces. So I can drill holes through this back plate and screw directly into the studs. Now this shelf was actually had all of these holes had bolts in them with drywall anchors, but this is a bit heavier, so I'm going to actually drill through this and screw it directly to the studs to make it a lot more sturdy. So using a router, I'm going to pretty much copy what is here and route a groove that this can fit into on this back edge. The only difference I'm going to be doing is the holes on this are actually quite a little bit bigger, so there's a bit of wiggle room and stuff there. And then they actually screw the shelf into the bottom of the bracket, but I don't want to have to do that because I don't want you to be able to see it. So I'm going to be making the holes the same size as what's already here, but I'm going to move them in just a little bit so that when it gets pushed onto the shelf, it's actually going to like friction fit onto the two poles. That way it'll negate the need for any screws and should be extremely strong. as I said before, the bracket was actually installed with wall anchors, and now this shelf is a little bit heavier, though not that much heavier. I would like to tie into at least one stud. Unfortunately, in Australia, studs can be anywhere between 450 to 600 millimeters apart. And so I know I've got one about here, and the other one's in the corner. So unfortunately, I'm only gonna be able to get into one, but that's fine. I'll use some of these plugs over here just to add a little bit of strength on the side. It's not really gonna do much in drywall, but I'll put 2 screws into the stud, and that should definitely be enough. So we'll mark out where the studs are. Luckily, the bracket actually has left a bit of a groove in the drywall from last time, so I don't even need the level. I can actually just line it up in the groove that's already there, and then mark out and drill my holes for the stud. That's it for this one. If you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button down below. Maybe consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. I have some pretty cool projects coming up. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section of this floating shelf. I think it turned out really nice. The wood ended up being a bit darker than what I was hoping, but I still think it looks really, really beautiful. Now you can also follow me on social media on Facebook and Instagram. I'll have links to those down below as well. Also, I do have some shirts and hoodies available, and I'll have a link to those down below as well. I made this quirky design not long ago of this measure twice, cut once concept, and I think it looks really cool. Definitely my best design so far. Also, down below in the description will be a link to my podcast, which is called Clamp, the Creating, Living and Making podcast that I host with the Grant Alexander and Morley Kurt, and you should definitely check it out. We have great fun and get into some great topics. And I'll see you next time.